Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Martial Universe Season 7 based on novel. So let's start. The Pill River began to surge. Vigorous nirvana chi materialized into tidal waves that rolled endlessly. The display of might from the Pill River was much more fearsome than any normal river. Chenjin and Wu Dao hovered above the Pill River. Even as dense nirvana chi was pounding against their bodies, their clothes did not waver at all. They appeared to be using their yuan power to defend themselves against the collision from the nirvana chi. Lin Dong was secretly envious at this sight. This is the disparity of strength between him and them. They were not on the same level. Meanwhile, the Desolate Hall disciples were rushing onto the side of the Pill River platform, with their eyes focused on the Pill River. Their gazes were filled with envy. Pill River head immersion was an extremely rare event that took place only once every year. Nirvana Golden Chi, which was produced in the depths of the Pill River, had an extremely powerful nourishing effect on Nirvana stage practitioners. However, very little Nirvana Golden Chi was produced each year. Otherwise, it would be of great help to the Desolate Hall's disciples. I wonder how many days can Lin Dong endure this time around. Yeah. Nirvana Golden Chi is extremely violent. The moment it enters your body, it will break into your nervous system and blood vessels. It might even be life-threatening for those unlucky ones. The guy who obtained the privilege of the Pill River head immersion last year is Senior Fang Yun, right? He managed to stay in the Pill River for 4 days. Given Lin Dong's current strength, I guess he should be able to stay in the river for 4 days. Who knows? On the platform, everyone was looking at the youthful figure that was above the Pill River. At the same time, whisperings and murmurings broke out from the onlookers. Is the Pill River head immersion dangerous? After hearing those murmurs, Mo Ling and his counterpart looked frantically at little Martin and asked. Originally, the Pill River is created from the purest nirvana chi. In the depths of the Pill River, a multitudinous amount of nirvana chi fuse together under the ambient pressure. As time passes, the fusion creates an extremely pure energy, which is known as the nirvana golden chi, little Martin explained plainly. There's another name for this kind of nirvana golden chi. It's also called the yuan spirit chi. Yuan spirit chi. Mo Ling and the rest were startled. When a nirvana stage practitioner is going through the 7th nirvana tribulation, the nirvana chi in his or her body will automatically transform into that yuan chi. From a different perspective, the same situation is what's happening with the nirvana golden chi in the Pill River. The nirvana golden chi will be formed after going through numerous rounds of fusion and refinement. It's just that the nirvana golden chi here has no consciousness of its own. If one can successfully absorb the nirvana golden chi here, not only will it be greatly beneficial for the growth of his strength, it will make the process of his yuan dan evolving into a yuan spirit much more smoother as well. There are such benefits. Upon hearing these, Mo Ling and the rest were shocked. Forming the yuan spirit is an important step in the nirvana stage. When a yuan spirit was created, even if one's physical body was destroyed, one would not die instantly. However, even though yuan spirit was rather useful, it was not easy to create one. The risk of creating a yuan spirit was much more higher than passing through a nirvana tribulation. Therefore, when they heard that nirvana golden chi could make the process of creating a yuan spirit smoother, they were extremely shocked. There are indeed a lot of benefits. However, nirvana golden chi can be rather uncontrollable for practitioners at your level. The moment you lose control of it, your internal body will be in a state of chaos. In the end, not only do you not manage to reap any benefits, but you will end up with a bunch of internal injuries. Furthermore, the nirvana golden chi is hidden in the depths of the Pill River. If one wants to obtain the Nirvana chi, one will have to enter the depths of the Pil River. The ambient pressure there is enough to crush a 4-yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. It's not an easy task to withstand the pressure, while absorbing the Nirvana golden chi at the same time, little Martin explained. Oh, I see. Everyone finally understood what was going on. Upon seeing everyone's facial expressions, little Martin merely smiled and shifted his gaze towards the young figure above the Pil River. Indeed, the Nirvana Golden was extremely violent. However, it would not pose any death-dealing threats to Lin Dong, who had been practicing the Green Heaven materialized dragon skill. Let's do it. Above the Pil River, Chen Zhen looked at Wu Dao and chuckled. Okay. Wu Dao nodded his head slightly. Soon after, his facial expression became somber gradually. With a wave of his sleeves, boundless and vigorous yuan power swept out of his body like a tidal wave and materialized into an enormous yuan power-made bolt that directly plunged into the Pil River. Then, it started stirring ferociously like a gigantic rod. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As that enormous yuan power-made bolt started to stir, the Pil River boiled instantly. Waves and currents were surging violent. Following which, a black-colored whirlpool formed rapidly on the surface of the Pil River. The whirlpool extended quickly into the bottom of the Pil River. The jet-black whirlpool was like the mouth of the devil, making one's hair stand. Buzz buzz. Clearly, the whirlpool was expanding rapidly. As the width of the whirlpool's mouth reached approximately 100 feet, a golden radiance appeared in the bottomless darkness. Swish! The golden radiance shot out from the whirlpool like a shooting star that streaked across the dark sky. Finally, when it reached the top of the sky, an abnormal violent energy wave erupted. Nirvana Golden Chi. When everyone on the platform saw the golden radiance shooting out of the whirlpool, cries of surprise broke out, and their eyes were filled with fervent. Lin Dong, enter the depths of the Pil River and absorb the Nirvana Golden Chi. If you can't take it anymore, crush this piece of jade and I will bring you back. Chen Zhen roared as the golden radiance appeared. With a wave of his sleeves, a gold-colored jade flew towards Lin Dong. Yes. Without any hesitation, after Lin Dong caught the gold-colored jade in his hand, his body trembled and vigorous yuan power engulfed his body. Following which, he materialized into a streak of light, and surged into the swirling whirlpool, without the slightest bit of uncertainty. As Lin Dong entered the whirlpool, Chen Zhen took action as well. Boundless yuan power gushed out from his body and enveloped the entire whirlpool. Soon after, the whirlpool began to spin slower. Eventually, the whirlpool was forcefully froze. Phew! Upon seeing the whirlpool froze, Wu Dao let out a sigh of relief. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the gigantic yuan power-made bolt into his body. Then, he shifted his gaze towards the whirlpool that was emitting golden radiance and pursed his lips involuntarily. What happens next will have to depend on his capabilities. The longer he endures down there, the more beneficial it will be for him, Chen Zhen as he dusted his hands. How many days do you think this lad can hold out? Chen Zhen suddenly asked smilingly. Should be around 5 days, Wu Dao muttered as he gave a conservative estimate. 5 days is a rather good result. However, I guess this estimate is far from what you expect deep in your heart. Don't you always hold him in high regard? Chen Zhen laughed. All right, my estimate is 8 days, Wu Dao stroked his beard and replied. Chen Zhen was slightly startled. Then, he maintained his composure and continued, You're rather blunt. From what I know, among the younger generation, who has undertaken the Pil River head immersion, only Ying Xiaoxiao managed to hold out for 8 days in the river. I have never once believed that Lin Dong is weaker than that girl, Wu Dao smiled insipidly. Then, why don't you think about what happened further back in the past? That year, Senior Jutong lay on the bed of the Pil River and absorbed all the nirvana golden chi before swaggering out of the river. Chenjun chuckled. Ha ha, Senior Jutong is an exceptional talent, who mastered the great desolate scripture. I don't have such expectation for Lin Dong, Wu Dao chortled. You? Chen Zhen broke out into laughter and shook his head. Then, he shifted his gaze towards the whirlpool that was emitting golden radiance and said softly, "Since you have such high expectations of him, we shall see how many days this lad can hold out." As Chen Zhen finished his sentence, he stopped talking for a while. Then, he muttered to himself, "If a miracle occurs, that will be the best scenario. The desolate hall has been too quiet these past years. It's time for some excitement." The dark vortex channel was like a gigantic black python, as it charged barbarically into the Pil River, before finally connecting with its deepest depths. Ding! From within the channel, a light ray suddenly shot out explosively while traveling at a frightening speed towards the deepest depths of the vortex. At this moment, a golden ray of light started to gradually brighten in the darkness of the depths. Have I finally arrived? Lin Dong narrowed his eyes and stared at the enormous golden light in front of him. From with the golden light, he felt a fluctuation that was extremely vast and savage. That was likely the golden nirvana chi that was born at the depths of the Pil River. This fluctuation feels somewhat familiar, Lin Dong muttered to himself, before a jolt went through his mind as he recalled. Was this the same golden energy that was present within his body after swallowing the Yuan spirit that was in Lin Langtian's body? From the looks of it, these two types of energy should be similar. However, the nirvana chi that was born within the Pil River did not have any consciousness, and was not subject to anyone's control. Looks like the pressure is starting to increase. Lin Dong's eyes were staring at the two flanks of the vortex, before moving towards the bottom of the river. The pressure was getting stronger and strong, and soon it made his skin feel uncomfortable. The Pil River was unlikely any ordinary river, and the liquid that was flowing through it was not ordinary river water. Instead, it was formed by nirvana water created from the condensation of nirvana chi. The pressure resulting from it was something even a nirvana stage expert like Lin Dong did not dare to underestimate. Ring! With a thought, faint green light started to surge around his body, immediately dissipating much of the pressure. Following his gradual mastery of the green heaven materialized dragon skill, the resilience and strength of Lin Dong's physical body had exceeded that of a 6 yuan nirvana stage expert. After the green light fully enveloped Lin Dong's entire body, he didn't hesitate, and explosively shot outwards. Finally, he shot out of the vortex channel, and headed towards pulsating golden light, at the bottom of the river. Hiss! When Lin Dong just came out of the vortex channel, he started to sink downwards violently. A vastly stronger pressure started to seep into him, causing the green light enveloping him to turn slightly dimmer. After realizing this situation, Lin Dong's expression turned solemn and serious. With a faint tremor of his body, row after row of green scales started to rapidly wrap around his entire body. Just like a suit of armor, they covered almost every inch of his body. With the emergence of the scale armor, the pressure immediately dissipated, finally allowing Lin Dong to observe his surroundings. This was the bottom of the Pil River, however no silt or mud was present. Instead it was filled with rich golden light, which radiated outwards, forming an area with a radius of roughly 10 meters. Outside of this radius of golden light was a dark and murky environment. Lin Dong's gaze swept around his surroundings meticulously, before congealing on the large patch of golden light in front of him. At the bottom of the Pil River, the golden light and the nirvana chi existed beside each other, with not a slightest hint of mixing. So this is the nirvana golden chi, what a savage and potent energy. Lin Dong slowly stretched his dragon scale-covered palm, and reached within the golden light. As his hand reached deeper and deeper, he gradually felt a viscous sensation. The violent fluctuations that followed caused Lin Dong to feel a faint stabbing pain on his hand. It's time to act. Lin Dong gave a sigh in his heart and no longer hesitated. With a step he entered into the radiating golden light. Hum. As he walked into the golden light, the scales on his body started to produce a faint humming noise. Green light started to blossom outwards, protecting Lin Dong against the corrosion caused by the violent energy. After completely submerging himself within the golden light, Lin Dong proceeded to sit down. With a solemn expression, he formed a seal with both hands, as a suctioning force started to pulsate outwards from his body. Roar! As the suctioning force started to proliferate, the calm golden light started to seethe violently. Golden chi bubbles started to explode around Lin Dong's body, as ray after ray of golden light shot into Lin Dong's body like a thunderstorm. As the rays of golden light shot into his body, they exploded into countless amounts of golden mist as they enter his body before traveling deeper into his body's core. Hiss! As those golden fog attached onto his internal organs, Lin Dong's face turned boiling hot. Sucking in a deep breath, clattering sounds could be heard escaping from the seams of his teeth. The mist was like boiling lava, and as it coursed through his body, his meridians, muscles and even bogs started to gradually turn red hot, akin to being roasted by fire. Such violent nirvana golden chi, however, this is not enough to deter me. Lin Dong clenched his teeth and with a thought, a mysterious dragon roar started to resound within his body. This sound wave started to spread to every corner of his body. When it reached his meridians, muscles and bones, a faint green glow appeared on them. While being gradually enveloped by the green glow, a faint and abnormally ancient aura started to emerge within his body. This aura was like the dragon race of the ancient times. Green heaven materialized dragon skill was a skill that allowed a human's body to train to the level that rivaled the true dragon race. This was in addition to the true dragon chi that Qing Ji had left within his body, something that was only possessed by the elite dragon race. This allowed Lin Dong's physical body to slowly evolve from inside, as he continued to practice the green heaven materialized dragon skill. It was common knowledge to everyone that no matter how strong and resilient a human's body was, the organs was always the weakest spot. Generally, if an opponent were to pierce these organs, the resulting damage would most likely be life-threatening. However, the green heaven materialized dragon skill was different. It allowed not only the skin and the muscles to increase in resilience, even his internal organs and blood vessel were gradually strengthened as he continued training. This was the most abnormal part of the green heaven materialized dragon skin, which was why Lin Dong didn't hesitate in learning it. He knew that if he was able to master it, his physical body will definitely rival that of a true dragon. Since he possessed such a resilient body, wanting to absorb the violent nirvana golden chi was not as difficult as expected for Lin Dong. Kai Kai. Once again, the golden mist lunged towards those organs covered by the green glow. However, this time, the severe pain that it caused was greatly reduced. The mist slowly entered his flesh and bones. At that moment, Lin Dong could faintly feel a violent energy, akin a raging dragon, starting to grow within his body. While the nirvana golden chi was tempering his flesh and bones, a large amount of them was also sucked away by Lin Dong's yuan power. As those yuan power flowed within his meridians, they started to turn increasingly vigorous. As he examined the changes that are happening to his body, a hint of a smile appeared on Lin Dong's face. Nirvana golden chi was an absolutely wonderful supplement for nirvana stage experts. Not only would it strengthen the body, it could increase the vigor of one's yuan power. The rate of improvement was many times faster than ordinary training. This place is not bad. All this nirvana golden chi should not be wasted. Lin Dong opened his eyes faintly and looked at the 10-meter radius of golden light within the Pill River's depths. Within this light radius were thick and copious amounts of nirvana golden chi. This time, Lin Dong's expression when he looked at them was filled with greed. With the green heaven materialized dragon skill, Lin Dong was able to disregard that enormous pressure. Furthermore, it allowed him to easily endure the pain that would torture a normal nirvana stage expert to death when absorbing the nirvana golden chi. Although the pain was still present, it was not hard for Lin Dong to endure it. However, the pressure is getting heavier and heavier. Lin Dong glanced at the dragon scales on his body and noticed their dimming green glow. The originally bright green glow was gone. It seems like the pressure here was slowly increasing in intensity. However, now that Lin Dong had a taste of the benefits of the nirvana golden chi, he would naturally not give up that easily. As for the growing pressure, he wanted to find out how much more his physical body could endure. Devour it. Lin Dong started to create a seal before a pulsating black hole started to appear with his palm. The next moment, devouring force started to spread out from it. Wish. With the appearance of the devouring force, the floating clump of golden light started to fluctuate violently. Streams of golden light started to form, flowing with a frightening speed into the black hole in Lin Dong's palm. Following the absorption of a large amount of nirvana golden chi, Lin Dong's face started to glow with a faint gold light. From far, he looked akin to a solemn and dignified Buddha. At this moment, as he continued to devour, Lin Dong's aura started to slowly climb. A cluster of golden light lingered at the bottom of the dark Pill River, and it appeared extremely dazzling. However, at the bottom of the Pill River, which was filled with a frightening pressure, only the golden light cluster would infrequently explode and form gold-colored air bubbles, which emitted a slight clear sound in the process. One could vaguely see a figure seated within the dense golden light that was a couple of 100 feet in size. The viscous nirvana golden chi around his body was just like numerous water streams that continuously poured into that figure. A slight buzzing sound quietly appeared. After one sight shot into the light cluster, the figure finally gradually became clear. Green-colored scales reflected a faint green light. However, one could vaguely see a faint bright red color in the gaps between those scales. A little bloody scent emerged from within. Lin Dong had already sat for 3 days at the bottom of the Pill River. During these 3 days, the pressure around him grew increasingly stronger. This situation was as though the pressure of the entire Pill River was gradually gathered towards his direction. That endless growing pressure was sufficient to cause one to feel fearful. In the face of this gradual increasingly terrifying pressure, the pores all over Lin Dong's body was still gradually pressured by the great force, until blood traces flowed out from all of his pores. Although he was not seriously wounded, the continuously increasing pressure would definitely reach quite a terrifying degree, should this continue. At this moment, Lin Dong finally completely sensed just how great a price he must pay if he wanted to successfully absorb all the nirvana golden chi at the bottom of this Pill River. That increasingly terrifying pressure was something that even he, who had practiced the green heaven materialized dragon skill, did not dare to underestimate. Although the pressure was frightening, Lin Dong also reaped plenty of benefits during these 3 days. As traces of nirvana golden chi entered his body, he could clearly sense that his physical body was also gradually being strengthened and the tempering originated from within. Even his blood and flesh appeared to be nourished with strength. Following the strengthening of the physical body, the yuan power that flowed within Lin Dong's inner channels also grew increasingly powerful. It was just like galloping river water that whistled past. Waves after waves of unusually powerful energy were directed to all of Lin Dong's limbs and bones. Lin Dong could clearly sense that the strengthening of his yuan power during these 3 short days could be comparable to 10 times that from his normal training. This was quite a frightening number. However, it was not overly incredible. The nirvana golden chi was something that was agglomerated from extremely pure nirvana chi. The nirvana chi that was contained in just a little trace of it would be able to compare with the result of the training of an ordinary person in one day. Of course, with the strengthening of one's physical body and yuan power, the thing that really surprised Lin Dong was another matter that occurred. There were quite a number of things in Lin Dong's dantian. The one that occupied the middle was a fist-sized dim golden-colored yuan dan. The yuan dan was slowly rotating and continuously swallowing the vast and powerful yuan power. Above the yuan dan was a large cluster of green-colored qi. Dragon roars was continuously emitted from within. The aura churned and it vaguely gathered into a rising dragon manner. This cluster of green qi was naturally the heavenly dragon qi that Qing Ji had left behind. It was far too wild and violent, and Lin Dong was unable to completely absorb it. All he could do was to gradually control it through the green heaven materialized dragon skill, and allow these heavenly dragon aura to naturally merge into his body. At the bottom of the yuan dan was a flowing golden light. There was an extremely mysterious ripple present within the golden light. This was the yuan spirit qi that he had obtained after swallowing the yuan spirit within Lin Lang Qian's body. From a certain point of view, the nirvana golden qi that Lin Dong was currently absorbing could be considered the same type of energy. Lin Dong clearly did not understand the utility of the yuan spirit qi, which was not something that he could control at his level. Hence, he had always placed it within his dantian, while waiting for his strength to advance before controlling it in the future. That was Lin Dong's plan. However, during these 3 days, when he was absorbing nirvana golden qi, he discovered that each time he absorbed a little of the nirvana golden qi, there would be some golden light charging into his dantian and merging with this yuan spirit qi, gradually strengthening the latter in the process. This event also caused Lin Dong to be a little shocked. This yuan spirit qi was after all something that belonged to that yuan spirit. Although Lin Dong believed that he had already eroded all of the consciousness within it, this occurrence still caused him to feel a little uneasy. Fortunately, as the yuan spirit qi grew stronger, it did not break free of his control. Only the golden light became brighter by the day. The originally somewhat illusory golden light had also become a lot more corporeal. Lin Dong was able to sense an unusually powerful fluctuation from within this cluster of yuan spirit qi. This kind of fluctuation had some difference from yuan power. However, Lin Dong could sense that this yuan spirit qi appeared to possess an extremely shocking lethal force. "I want to see just what you are thinking of doing." Lin Dong's mind observed that cluster of yuan spirit qi while muttering in his heart. The interior of his body possessed the mysterious stone talisman and the devouring ancestral symbol guarding it. Even his dantian possessed that ancient universe formation. Hence, he did not believe that this thing could misbehave in his body. Time quietly flowed past within this quiet bottom of the Pill River. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had already passed. During these 5 days, the bottom of the Pill River continued to remain silent, while the outskirts of the Pill River grew extremely lively. A large group of desolate Hall disciples were clustered together on the river platform. Quite a number of people also stood on some of the platforms surrounding the Pill River. Although most of them were training, their eyes were all gathered in one direction without any prior agreement. That place had already become an isolated zone with a whirlpool over it. Their eyes were filled with surprise. This was because Lin Dong had already remained at the bottom of the Pill River for 5 days. Moreover, he did not show any signs of breaking out from the river. The disciples of the desolate Hall were clearly aware of just what this time represented. Currently, one of the 4 senior direct disciples of the desolate Hall, Fang Yun, was merely able to endure for 4 days before being unable to endure the pressure and coming out of the river while receiving the Pill River head immersion last year. Moreover, he was covered with fresh blood and appeared exceptionally miserable when he came out. However, The time that Lin Dong had currently endured for had already exceeded this timing. Did that not mean that Lin Dong's metal was even tougher than Fang Yun? If this was really the case, it seemed that their desolate hall was going to produce another fearsome person. Moreover, this fearsome person had just joined the desolate hall. Chen Zhen's and Wu Dao's figure did not move above the Pill River. However, their eyes were locked onto the whirlpool below. Their expressions were becoming a little serious. That little fellow is really able to endure, Wu Dao fondled his beard. His voice contained a joy and pleased note that could not be hidden. Enduring for 5 days. He could be considered to be above average amongst the disciples of the 4 halls when it comes to receiving the Pill River head immersion. Chen Zhen also smiled. Of course, the most important thing was that Lin Dong still showed no signs of breaking out of the Pill River despite having already endured for 5 days. In other words, it meant that he could still continue. By relying on his exceptional ability, Chen Zhen was able to vaguely sense the obscure aura at the end of the whirlpool. This Pill River is unique. The pressure below will become increasingly frightening each day. Those last few days are truly the most difficult to endure through. Wu Dao softly said. Let's just wait. As long as this little fellow is able to endure for another 3 days, his result will equal that girl Xiao Xiao, Chen Zhen smilingly said. Wu Dao nodded slightly. 3 days might appear quite short, but for Lin Dong, who was at the bottom of the Pill River, it was likely that he would have to pay a hefty price. Whether he could endure on would depend on his own ability. Time passed by a day at a time under the great anticipation of the many disciples in the desolate hall. The atmosphere of the desolate hall also soared suddenly as time passed. Some of the direct disciples, who were usually undertaking a retreat and train bitterly, were also disturbed. Finally, they came out of their retreat and crowded around the Pill River. When Lin Dong had entered the Pill River for the 7th day, this news was directly spread everywhere. Some of the disciples from the other 3 halls also heard of it. Immediately, the desolate hall became lively. The disciples from the other 3 halls would occasionally hurry over. After all, being able to receive the Pill River head immersion and endure it for 7 days was something that only a rare few seniors could achieve. Moreover, the thing that really caused their hearts to be shaken when that the whirlpool was still completely calm when the 7th day arrived and there was not the slightest activity. The fellow deep under within the Pill River did not show any signs of coming out. Looking from the situation in front of them, it seemed that Lin Dong would very likely endure until the 8th day. This result was something that only the senior sister Ying Xiao Xiao, amongst the younger generation of the current Dao sect, had reached. Could it be that this new disciple, who had joined the desolate hall for only a couple of days, was actually as talented as that senior sister? The faces of quite a number of disciples changed a little when they thought of this. This new person, who had become the champion of the 100 Empire War, really did appear to have some ability. The 8th day finally arrived while these many people were waiting quietly. After which, the entire Dao sect began to show signs of boiling because of it. However, this boiling had not lasted for long when everyone became strangely quiet. This was because they discovered that Lin Dong still did not show any signs of appearing. This video will end here.